What's up, everyone? I want to do a quick video on the power levels of Claymore. I did one on Fairy Tail, and it was titled Power Levels of Fairy Tail, Acnologia versus Zeroth, and it actually got a good amount of discussion going and a decent amount of attention. So I want to do one on Claymore after the latest chapter 154. I definitely think it is the end of the first huge segment of Claymore. Now there's arcs and mini arcs in manga series like this adventure, that adventure, this final boss, this large enemy. But I think there's also stuff called segments for certain manga, where multiple arcs are all part of a greater arc or greater segment, and this was definitely one of them. From the first chapter until the latest chapter, it was a whole segment, and I'm assuming you guys have read until 154, so I don't spoil anything. But I'm going to start spoiling stuff to make this the best discussion. This whole thing was a segment, as you guys know. It's not like there's multiple minor arcs like there was, but now it's sort of culminated, and we are now moving into what I'm suspecting we'll move into the dragon universe, and them fighting the dragons, who may be even stronger. I'm sure of it. There's probably some beast ass dragon boss who's like the most evil guy out there, who's badass, like 1,000 times stronger than Teresa maybe in the future. Like that's where I think it would be good for the manga series to head. But having said that, we don't know, and we're going to use the power levels of what we have. So a lot of people think it's very obvious. They say Teresa is number one. It's very clear she just beat Priscilla. Priscilla's number two, and then it goes on from there. And so I'd say it is true, but this isn't going to be a typical power level ranking video. I want to focus on Priscilla and Teresa only, and I want to present a more deeper discussion on, is it really truly Teresa who's the strongest, or was it because of Priscilla's interaction with her and Claire's interaction with her and her friends that allowed Teresa to be so strong? And let's explore that. So some people may argue that no, Teresa is not the strongest because what we saw that killed Priscilla was not Teresa. It was a newer form of Teresa. Teresa, one could argue, already died. She was slashed up and killed by Priscilla towards the start of this manga. And then what happened was just the flesh of Teresa was taken up, and one can argue, okay, it's some ghost of Teresa who is now in Claire, and therefore it's Claire who did it. I don't think this is completely true, although it has some grains of potential truth in it. I do think that Claire somehow, with their supernatural Yoma powers, survived through her flesh, whatever chunk of flesh that Claire ate. And that's just my, goody two shoes, optimistic, glasses half full, hopeful interpretation. But it could be true. One could argue Teresa died, and I would rather argue that Teresa, sure, I think that Teresa by herself was not stronger than Priscilla. Why? Because I would argue Teresa, pure Teresa, died when Priscilla killed her. She made a false move. No. She made a mistake. She wasn't cautious enough, and there's no excuses for that. Like, as as an amazing fighter as she is, there's no excuses for that. You have to be always alert for any sort of surprise. And in the real world, it's like it's different because like there's so many factors of luck and chance that can screw you up. So calling anyone the best fighter, it's like, yeah, but in a real fight, like anything could happen. A knife can be thrown at you, you could trip, you could accidentally fall, you can slip on a piece of ice and lose the fight. But in the mythical world of Claymore, it's like, hey, if you can do all this sort of stuff, you should be able to be cautious enough to anticipate a potential sneak attack on you. And so I feel like there's no excuses, and therefore pure Teresa died at that point. And might I note that it was remarked that Teresa said when she first saw Priscilla, she said that Priscilla, once she matured and got to her full age as an adult, would almost assuredly be stronger than her. And it's pretty clear that Teresa was the strongest number one to ever exist. But had Priscilla reached her maturity, even Teresa said she would have overtaken her. Now, having said that, let's take on the other viewpoint and make things even more complicated. Others would argue, hey, Priscilla, by awakening, in effect, turned into her strongest form ever, her mature form, just at a not accentuated, but at a faster rate. And so she became her strongest form possible that she would have if she grew to an adult when she awakened. And again, it just supports the whole idea that perhaps it wasn't Teresa's fault in not expecting or predicting a sneak attack. It was just the fact that Priscilla was just, so much faster once she reached that point. So one can argue, hey, she did reach that point, and the non-pure Teresa, the Teresa that killed Priscilla in chapter 154 at the very end, hey, because of that, Teresa is stronger. So now let's bring about the other Teresa, which I think is still Teresa, but just to just to be more clear, I'll call her the non-pure Teresa, the Teresa that was piece of meat that was eaten by Claire, and then when Claire sort of awakened, Claire disappeared and Teresa took her form, and then Teresa awakened a second time and sprouted wings. And this is the form, this non-pure form. I call her non-pure because it's not truly just Teresa that caused her to get to that level of power. It was Claire's help, and also more so than Claire's help, Claire's friend's help, which I will get into later on. But basically, Priscilla is now awakened. But here's one of the things that I do have to bring forth to the table that makes things even more complicated. By awakening, from what I can tell, you get even stronger than you would at your highest potential if you hadn't awakened. So Priscilla's awakened being form was, in my opinion, stronger than however strong she would have gotten as if she became an adult. If she didn't awaken and became an adult. I think if she didn't awaken and become an adult, she would have been stronger than pure Teresa for sure. But because she awakened, she's now even stronger than that. So there we go. Now we have a new form of Priscilla, the awakened Priscilla, which on Wikipedia and everyone they all still consider that Priscilla, because awakened still means you're Priscilla. And so therefore we will adopt her as, hey, awaken Priscilla, still Priscilla. And therefore we have this high level of strength Priscilla. And I do think that other than Teresa, no one can even put forth that anyone, save for the dragon people, which we have yet to see, are in the Claymore universe, can be stronger or has been shown to be stronger than Priscilla, save potentially Teresa. Now let's sort out if Teresa is or is not. Pure form Teresa, we've already settled. Pure form Teresa would have been weaker than matured Priscilla and awakened Priscilla. And pure form Teresa was stronger than child Priscilla. So that's set in stone, in my opinion. Now, what about non-pure form Teresa? This is the form where, with Claire's help, she has now become this ridiculous thing. In my opinion, it's very clear that non-pure form Teresa is stronger than Priscilla. She defeated this person, killed her, and it's very clear that there are multiple moments, multiple times throughout multiple chapters where she makes it very clear that she could have killed this person when she was weakened or off guard, but she wanted to fight Priscilla at full strength when she was at her strongest, and she literally cut down Priscilla and made her stronger and stronger and stronger, because each time she got damaged, she regrew at a fast rate and regenerated and became even stronger. And she kept doing this until Priscilla was just this ball of hatred, and she was stronger than ever. And Teresa says a lot of poetic stuff, like she says to Claire and her friends that the moment that they had struck her down, they had already won. But moving on from that, it's like, it's kind of true. Like, she grew out Priscilla to finally take her out at her strongest form, just to end things like she promised at their full potential, which was very admirable and respectful, and a lot of other things. She wanted to finish with a big bang, so there's no unanswered questions. So like, I doubt she cared if she was called like a coward if she took Priscilla out in her weakened form, but she chose not to, and she weeded this person out until she was at full strength. And so non-pure Teresa is very clear to be stronger than the strongest form of Priscilla, the form where she kept regenerating and she absorbed other people, who she ended up spitting out again. But it was the strongest form of Priscilla. And so I guess that clears up everything, in my opinion. Teresa wins. Teresa's stronger. But if you don't consider her Teresa, and you consider the Teresa before, only to be up until the point where she gets killed by Priscilla, then only the non-pure form Teresa is stronger than Priscilla. Now, you're probably wondering, what is all this crap about pure form and non-pure form? What a bunch of crap. Let me explain it to you. First off, I've already explained some of it. Claire did a bunch of stuff, and if it wasn't for Claire, this non-pure form, who I think was stronger than original Teresa would have ever been, would have never came about. For instance, she took up the meat of dead Teresa, ate it, became a quarter Yoma, and then when she awakened, she only awakened because of Claire, and that's the only reason Teresa came out. And I definitely think that Teresa was much stronger than the original Teresa for numerous reasons. And it's not just Claire. Claire's friends helped tremendously. First off, one of Claire's arms is not her own. I think it was Irene's or someone else's. I forgot her name, but the person who could do wind cutter, and therefore, it was remarked from Teresa that arm helped her out, and more so than that, it made her do a technique she couldn't do before. In addition to that, I mean, first off, Teresa was a beast. She was just learning all these techniques on the spot that they had spent years perfecting. But Claire, like Teresa herself remarked that she was thanking Claire and her friends because, again, she was crediting them for their win, and she was crediting them while not only using multiple techniques of Claire's friends, but combining and incorporating and mixing them to create new innovative techniques. That was Teresa's genius, of course, but all those techniques came from Claire's friends. And when she was using them and making new stuff like extending her arms and using wind cutter at the same time, she was remarking on how, hey, thank you. If it wasn't for you, Claire, and your adventures and your greetings and farewells with all your friends, I wouldn't have all these techniques and so forth, yada, yada, yada. So this new Teresa, it wasn't just Teresa. It was, it was sort of a form created by Claire, her friends, her adventures, and a lot of other stuff, and Teresa herself helping. And so finally, it's like, yes, this is Teresa, but is it truly just her? And again, her awakening, first off, her emerging from Teresa and then Claire just disappearing. Wait, let me say that again. Teresa emerging from Claire and Claire disappearing, I feel like is the first awakening. And then for her to sprout wings is a second awakening, which I feel like could only be accomplished in such a way if Claire did what she did and took up the meat, became a quarter Yoma. Because if that didn't happen, and maybe, let's just say Teresa was not killed by Priscilla and she survived somehow. If she awakened on her own somehow, which is impossible for Claymore, and I don't think Teresa would have ever done it, she wouldn't have gotten this awakening form she has now with the four wings on her back and the cool legs. She would have just become some monstrosity, some crazy monster with like worm-like projections like all the others. And so this new form most likely has to do with the innovative new way that they came up with of creating Claymore. Quarter Yuma from the strongest #1 of all time. Quite amazing. And I just want to remark again at the disappointment of those revived #1s. I just felt like I thought they would be stronger, but now we have the strongest #1 of all time, and that ends that. So I think, long story short, I'm pure Teresa. If you consider her part of Teresa, Teresa is stronger than Priscilla for sure, but you can't credit her, just Teresa, for doing that. It was a lot of Claire and a lot of other people, and if it wasn't for that, then pure Teresa would have been weaker than Priscilla, for sure, in every possible way. Whether you compare it to unawakened Priscilla or awakened Priscilla, the only exception would be child Priscilla. That's all, and if you like this video, subscribe and share this video with anyone you think would disagree or would be enlightened or would like this sort of video. And as always, like, favorite, comment, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in my next video, and if you like these sort of videos, leave your opinions in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think this is true? Do you think I missed anything? What else do you want me to say or do? What other videos do you want me to do? What are your opinions? And discuss with your friends and family and share this video. See ya.